Hi, and welcome back to another maths video. In this video, I'll be going over surds. So hopefully you should know what a square root is, this, and a surd is when we can't simplify a number to get rid of this square root. So say I had root 4, this is equal to 2, right? So this wouldn't be a surd because we can simplify this down to get 2. But something like root 3 or root 5, these would be surds because we can't simplify them down any further. Like indices, there are some rules we need to know to help simplify the surd. So first, if you have two numbers that multiply to create a bigger number, so say the two numbers are a and b, and they multiply to create ab, we can separate this out to get root a times root b. So as an example, if I had root 24, 24 is the same as 6 times 4, for example, I can simplify this down to root 4 times root 6, right? And now this is where the simplifying part comes in. So root 4 is the same as, so root 4 is 2, right? So I can rewrite this whole thing as 2 times root 6. And so our final answer to simplify root 24 is going to be 2 root 6. Second, squaring a surd gives you the number inside of the surd. So if I had root 5 and I wanted to square that, right, that would be equal to 5. And that's because root 5 squared is basically the same as multiplying it by itself, right? So it's root 5 times root 5, which is equal to 5. Third, dividing two separate roots, so say I have root a over root b, is the same as dividing them under the same whole root. So this would be equal to the root of a divided by b. So say I had root 12 over root 4. This would be equal to 12 over 4, which would simplify to give us root 3. Another very important thing you need to know for GCSE is called rationalising the denominator. This is basically where we have a fraction and the denominator of the fraction is a root, like this one. And for some reason, people don't like it when it's like that. So we need to get rid of it. And the way to do that would be to multiply both sides, so the top and the bottom, by whatever's on the bottom. So we would multiply this by root b over root b. So our final answer, so we have to multiply a by root b, we get a root b over root b times root b. And if you remember, previously I said that if you square a root, we get the letter, in this case, on its own. So it would be just b. And now we don't have a root in the denominator. Success. And an important thing to remember is that we haven't actually changed this root at all. So we haven't actually changed a over root b, because we're multiplying it by essentially 1, right? Because root b over root b is 1. You're also going to see a harder version of rationalising the denominator in the GCSE. And the questions look something like this. A over a minus root b. Now we can't use the method we used here. Why not? Well, let's try that out. So let's multiply both sides by the root, which is root b over root b. And what do we get? We get a times root b on the top, which is a root b. And on the bottom, we get root b times a minus root b. So this simplifies to a root b on the top, hasn't changed, and a times root b, a root b, and minus root b times root b is going to be minus b. So we've got rid of the square root on this b, but we now have a new one here, so obviously that does not work. We need a new method, and the way you're supposed to do it is, I can't actually explain this to you right now because it is quite hard, and I'll probably come onto it in later videos. What you need to know is you have to multiply, so let's write out the question again, a over root b. You have to multiply both sides by whatever this is but just replace the sign with the opposite. So in this case, it would be a plus root b. So multiply both sides by a plus root b. A plus root b. And now let's multiply that out. So what's a times a? That would be a squared. What's a times root b? That's a root b. And now let's do the bottom. So what's a times a? A squared, right? A times root b, that's plus a root b. Minus root b times a, that would be minus a root b. Stretch this fraction. And what's minus root b times root b? That would be minus b. So let me switch the color. Our final answer would be a squared plus a root b over a squared, and now this cancels out with this because it's plus a root b minus a root b minus b. So it's a squared minus b. And as you can see, there's no root in the denominator. We've done it. Alright, let's do some examples now. So first, we have root 200, and we need to simplify it. So if you remember from the first rule, we can write this out as two separate surds. So root 200. So we can write that out as root 100 times root 2. And if you remember, well, I mean, hopefully you should, that root 100 is equal to 10. So we can write this whole thing out as 10 root 2. So my advice to you for these kinds of questions is look for the biggest whole square. So we know that 100 is the biggest whole square in 200. So try and look for that, and that way you can simplify it down as fast as possible. Second, we have, sorry, let me just change the color. Second, we've been asked to add root 50 and root 32. So let's do that. Root 50, again, we'll use the same method we used here. We'll split root 50 into two fractions. So what's the biggest square we can find in 50? Well, it's 25, right? So 25 is 5 squared. So we can write this, or at least we can write root 50 as root 25 times root 2, right? And root 25, as we said before, is 5. So we can write root 50 as 5 root 2. Now let's do the same for 32. What's the biggest whole square? I think it's 16. So, and of course 16 is 4 squared. So we can write this as root 16 times root 2. And root 16, again, is 4. So we can write this whole thing out as 4 root 2. And now to finally answer the question, what's 5 root 2 plus 4 root 2? So, because they have the same bases, we can add them together. So we can add the 5 and the 4 together. And our final answer is going to be 9 root 2. On to the final question. So what is root 2 to the power of 4? So this is basically the same as saying root 2 times root 2 times root 2 times root 2, right? Because it's multiplied 4 times. So let's do this step by step. So what's root 2 times root 2? 2, right? So we can write this as 2. And what's root 2 times root 2? Again, 2. And now we can multiply this together, right? 2 times 2. Our final answer is 4. So, thank you for watching another maths video. If you liked it, please do like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.